2, 3. 1, 2.
Good evening, guys. Black Scout Survival Late Night Live. Thanks for tuning in. If the question is there a shadowy, highly funded organization that's going to use climate lockdowns or climate change as intimidation to lock you down, to take away animal products, private vehicles, basically everything that you own? The answer is yes. It's actually happening all around us right now. And really, in fact, they aren't really trying that hard to hide it. The UN brags about an Agenda 2030, which we'll cover a little bit further in the show. We've talked about that quite a bit, but I'll cover it again. And now there's actually a pilot program going on to see the best way to determine how these things can be implemented. And it's already underway, this pilot program, and they call it basically consumption-based emissions. In order to get rid of that, people will no longer be allowed to eat meat, dairy products, privately owned vehicles of their own choosing, and also how many articles of clothing that you can buy a year. And this will be led by the people that are now about in control of everything. People like Bill Gates, George Soros, the Black Rocks. All these people are the ones that are in charge of this. Have you heard of something called C40? I'm going to pop it up here on the screen. C40 cities. And so 14 major American cities have signed on to this globalist climate agreement with a truly dystopian goal for the country's immediate future that includes eliminating meat and dairy consumption, private vehicle ownership, air travel, clothing purchases. The C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group plans to accomplish this vision by, you guessed it, 2030. And listen, these cities that have already signed on here in the United States now, here in the United States: Austin, Texas; Boston, Chicago, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, New York City, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Portland. You should have guessed Portland was on there. And San Francisco, of course, Washington, D.C., and Seattle. Yeah, all the culprits that you would have expected. Okay, so what C40 is, as you can see here, C40 is a network of mayors of nearly 100 world-leading cities collaborating to confront the climate crisis. Cities in the C40 network earn their membership through action. Membership operates on performance-based requirements, not on fees. Our leadership standards set the minimum requirements for all members cities, safeguards the integrity of C40, a network of climate leaders. Okay. So let's look at the chair here. Sadiq Khan. Okay. Let's look at funding and partners. Bloomberg. You see all these. A lot of the known suspects. I was kind of surprised to see IKEA and L'Oreal on here. There must be something I should dig into on there. And the Clinton Foundation is on here. So, yeah, just all the usual suspects, okay? So what we do, and so they got various different things here. Inclusive and thriving cities. It says that C40 is committed to being an equitable, diverse, and inclusive organization, not only in the way that we recruit and manage and develop our international workforce, but also in the manner in which we work with C40, nearly 100 member cities. So worldwide, the vision can only be achieved with diverse workplace and an inclusive mission. See, this is where you really lose me. Okay, so let's just say you're truly concerned about this hypothetical climate change, and you think it's real, you really believe in it, and you want to change the impact. Where does this virtue signaling of diversity and inclusion fit into that for saving the planet? I don't understand that point. You pretty much lose me at that. That is the token phrase of a globalist Marxist movement. So again, it's just craziness. So I'm going to put up a chart real quick here. Now, you see this chart here, and it says dietary change: 16 kilograms of meat per person per year. All right, progressive target in 2030. Ambitious target by 2030: 0 meat consumption. Dairy 90. The ambitious target is 0. They still want to say that you're going to get 2,500 calories per person. I guess that's eating crickets. And then so look, the target is 8 new clothing items per person per year, down to 3. The ambition is 3 articles of clothing. So 3 pairs of skivvy drawers a year. Vehicle per 1,000 people, 190. Private vehicles, 0. They want you to have no vehicles. Get on the cattle trailers and ride to your demise. All right, so reduce the number of flights. 1 short haul return flight, less than 1,500 kilometers every 2 years per person. But the goal is 1 short haul return flight, less than 1,500 kilometers every 3 years. So what does that sound? They don't want you to go anywhere, right? They don't want you to travel anywhere. They want you to stay in your little 15-minute city, get 3 pairs of skivvy drawers every year and eat crickets. I mean, I'm being facetious here, but it's true. I mean, there's no climate change. There's no climate justice without social justice. Really? Okay. "40 cities have signed C40's equity pledge, representing close to 100 million people. Thriving Cities Initiative, Inclusive Climate Action Forum, Inclusive Climate Action Cities Fund, Green New Deal." There you go. Green New Deal Pilot Implementation Initiative, Woman for Climate. I don't see the LGBT flag here. Where is that at? What am I missing? Anyway, yeah, this is what we got going on. So let me see. Go back here. Just we'll scroll through the page and let you see some things. Plan has adopted a resilient and inclusive climate action plan aligned with 1.5 ambition of the Paris Agreement and updated regularly. Deliver in 2024. City remains on track to deliver its climate action plan by having overall emissions by 2030. Mainstream city uses the necessary financial, regulatory, and other tools at disposal to address the climate crisis. Mainstream, innovative, start taking inclusive and resilient action. They use inclusive a lot in this gig. C40 is committed to equitable, diverse, and inclusive work. I mean, really, where's the climate talk? All I see is equitable, inclusive, these division words that they love to use. It's crazy, But meanwhile, the billionaire elites, they will be eating steaks, filet mignons. They will be wearing designer clothing, designer labels. They'll have 20 luxury vehicles in a large bay garage with service technicians on site, and they'll have multiple private jet trips a week while you're in a cage eating crickets with the lights off. Right? Again, I'm being facetious. I'm being kind of Alex Jonesy. Speaking of Alex Jones, he's always right, isn't he? Anyway, Alex Jones is just he's just got we're close in age. He's just got several years on me, if you can believe that or not. But that whenever, and I said this the other day, guys, this should always be the glowing beam of light that you're onto something when this happens. Okay, whenever you're looking, you go look on the internet, and then your Google feed is filled with fact checkers. This was posted on September 2nd. What is the day? The 4th. Fact check. No, these cities don't want to ban meat. Oh, really? I think they said zero meat. Did you guys see that chart? Did it say zero meat? I'm pretty sure. Let me pull it back up. I actually deleted already. It said zero meat. Okay. All right. So then, just even more. AP fact check. When was this from? August 31st. Austin and Houston aren't cutting out meat and dairy to combat climate change despite online claims. We saw that. They said that they don't have no plans to impose such a ban. A spokesperson for C40 Cities social media post says the group has suggested ways cities can reduce meat and dairy consumption, but it has called for an outright ban on the product, nor is it forcing member cities to adopt it by recommendations. They literally said the target goal is to get 0 kilograms, I'm going by what they said, of meat by 2030 and still maintain 2,500 calories. And obviously they say crickets are very calorie dense. But this year, in lockstep with C4 Cities policy, the 2030 target, New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced that the city will place caps on the amount of meat and dairy the residents can have. And so if that is such a lie, let me actually get that video, because actually I had that video, I played it a few weeks ago, but let me just put it back up here real quick, guys. It'll take me 2 seconds. I've got 2 videos I want to show you. I showed these other week, but just in case you didn't watch the feed, I want to make sure that you see it. If my phone will work. So I will play the clip where it pretty much debunks that whole ordeal. My phone is not wanting to pull it up. Let me see. It's like waiting, maybe because I'm on live stream. If not, I'll hold my freaking phone up to the thing. Yeah, how about we do that? If I can.
The vast majority of food that is contributing to our emission crisis lies in meat and dairy products. We already know that a plant power diet is better for your physical and mental health, and I am living proof of that. But the reality is that thanks to this new inventory, we're finding out it is better for the planet.
Yeah. So first he said power plant. Did you guys hear that, by the way? Just let me know in the comments if you heard that well. He said the plant power diet is how he's so smart. He could barely put a sentence together, right? But I played that clip the other day. And so if it's not true, why is Eric Adams already putting it into play? He just signed a freaking bill on it. Okay. So we also have a video of one of the WEF guys talking about making people allergic to meat through ticks. Okay. And I played this as well. So I'm going to, the other week I played this for you guys, but just in case you didn't see it, let me just play it again for everyone.
Okay, so I'll give 2 examples. So one is that people eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption of meat, then they would it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. Yeah, some people will be willing. They have a weakness of will. They say, "Wow, this steak is just too juicy. I can't do it." I'm one of those, by the way. So but so here's the thought, right? So it turns out that we know a lot about. So we have these intolerance to. So I, for example, I have milk intolerance. And some people are intolerant to crayfish. So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you.
So yeah, he's talking about making people allergic to meat because they won't stop eating it. So then we have, somebody talked about his tie. He was wearing his daddy's tie or something. So anyway, there's a video here we showed maybe 2 years ago. but we'll run it through. 8 predictions for 2030. This is from World Economic Forum. Okay. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Whatever you want, you'll rent and it'll be delivered by a drone. The U.S. won't be the world's leading superpower. A handful of countries will dominate. You won't die waiting for an organ donor because they'll just take them out and use them. Oh, they won't transplant. They're going to print new ones instead. Wow. Okay. You'll eat much less meat, maybe none, they say. An occasional treat, not a staple, for the good of the environment and our health. 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change. We'll have to do a better job at welcoming and integrating refugees. That means open your borders. Polluters will have to pay for emit carbon dioxide. There will be global price on carbon. This will help make fossil fuels history. And I actually heard somebody talking about that. Let me remember to say something about that. You could be preparing to go to Mars. Yeah, sure. Okay. Scientists will have worked out how to keep you healthy in space. Western values will have been tested to the breaking point, meaning that everything that we've been raised on will be broken. Yep. All this absolute nonsense. Like, comment, share for the World Economic Forum. So I actually heard that they're talking some kind of tax on your carbon emissions is the plan. I'm not sure too much on that, so I can't really speak to it because I hadn't dove into it. But people have spoke about that quite a bit recently in the past few weeks. That people will be taxed on their carbon emissions. And then they're talking about meat as a treat instead of a staple food. Now, I've done videos a ton on this stuff over the years, and if you're a new subscriber, you may want to go through them. But there's one point where the WEF was actually funding some kind of bug meatballs, and they were trying to push that thing. So it's a lot of just bizarre stuff going on within this group of elites. Okay, they're trying to push a lot of things, and obviously these are things that they're not wanting to take part in themselves, but they want the peasants, and the peasants meaning me and you, to live this way, right? And hence why I think a lot of what's going on is to try to make the middle class and lower class poor and more controllable, right? The pandemic took out a lot of small businesses. And when you have a small business, you have freedom because you have control over your life. They try to take these people out. Okay. And then people losing jobs, people becoming dependent on the system and getting these various loans and stuff where you're just dependent on the system. I'm totally opposed to any kind of government help. I don't want any of it. I don't want anything from the government, because what that is that all gets back to a universal basic income, right? That's what they want to move to. So that way they can completely control you and pretty much a communist lifestyle, right? So right now, hedge funds and private billionaires are buying up residential homes and farmland all over the world. And it's true, like even around in rural towns. Like, who was it I heard? Maybe it was Patriot Nurse said that one of her friends was looking at a house. She did a video on this, and like some corporation came and bought it out from underneath the lady. I think that's what happened. Maybe it was her, maybe one, I'm not sure. But I know it just happened recently in my area. A house got bought by some big, and like, why? But these things are happening. They're buying up everything. And so you can't afford to buy a new home right now. And inflation's so doggone high that it's basically a tactic to keep the lower and middle class down. Meanwhile, they're buying up everything to have complete control and to keep it out of even your reach, right? And remember, I spoke about this nonstop for weeks. Climate activists are advocating for a climate lockdown. Even the Klaus Schwab's daughter, the World Economic Forum, was pushing it. They've even probed Joe Biden about the possibilities of a lockdown here in the U.S. for climate, in the same way they did it for the COOF, right? These ideas have been floated for climate lockdown, have ranged from shutting people in their homes and restricting air travel to essentially providing a universal basic income, like I talked about before, and or a max, and also a maximum income level. You can't make past it. This sounds like communism, right? All for the better of the globe, is what they say. And like I showed the guy, they're doing these things, and now they're about the ticks. And the CDC, I did a video about this other day, and if you guys watched it, if not, go watch it. Yeah, someone said they can't afford a new truck either. Yeah, it's right, because the government, the Fed controls all this stuff, and they're keeping these things out of the ability for you to buy anything, because that's how they curb inflation. They hike up interest rates. That way, the rich get richer, you stay poor, and businesses hurt because they have to lower the prices to try to sell product. So it's absolute idiocracy. Like, if you ever dig in, like I know a lot of folks may not be well versed in this area. Neither was I until I started researching on how this actually happens. That's why historically, when Republicans are in charge of America, it's always better economically for everyone, even the lower class. When Democrats are in charge, the only people that benefit are the elites, and everyone in the country hurts, right? So make sure you tell your friends, because they try to fool these idiots with social justice and inclusion and words like that absolutely mean nothing. And then people are like, yeah, I want to go vote because I want to be the morally superior, virtue signaling person. They go vote for themselves straight into communism. Look, you can vote your way into communism, but you have to shoot your way out of it. Okay. You can vote your way into communism, but you have to shoot your way out of it. So make sure your pack straps are all taped up tight. Everything's lubed up, because you may have to shoot your way out of communism. Anyhow, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. Make sure you stay frosty, stay strapped, and always stay dangerous. Take care.